Talking Points memo, will a major scandal erupt in the Department of Justice? Many Americans, including this one, now believe the fix was in, regarding investigations into the IRS hammering some right-wing groups and the Clinton email fiasco. Evidence mounting that the FBI did not behave properly while looking at Secretary Clinton and her staff. There are 2 more articles about that today in the Wall Street Journal. The crux of the matter is this.
Doesn't it concern you as an investigator that your chiefs in the Justice Department decided to become an immunity-producing machine for many people who would have been very key witnesses should there have been a prosecution?
I don't think of it that way. Doesn't strike me there was a lot of immunity issued in this case.
Now, Director Comey's statement is strange, to say the least.
These 5 immunity deals are very baffling. I mean, it's like playing a game of tag and nobody's it. It makes for a rather boring game when you give out immunity to people like Cheryl Mills. And her immunity deal I find it perplexing.
Cheryl Mills is Hillary Clinton's lawyer and was one of her top advisors at the State Department. Now, we don't try cases on TV here, but the FBI and the Justice Department have a lot of explaining to do on the email front. Same thing happened back in 2013 when an IRS boss, Lois Lerner, was accused of illegally targeting conservative groups for audits. Lerner took the fifth in the case and was never really held legally accountable. Something then Attorney General Eric Holder refused to explain.
When did you interview Lois Lerner? Where did the interview take place? Who was the personnel who conducted the interview at the Justice Department? And at any time during the interview, did she exercise her Fifth Amendment rights and refuse to answer questions?
Because this is an ongoing matter, I'm not going to answer those questions.
You can't answer. Well, let me ask you this. Did you interview Lois Lerner?
As I said, this is an ongoing matter, and I'm not going to comment on an ongoing matter.
Mr. Holder never clarified the situation to the American people, something he was honor-bound to do. But President Obama did make a statement when I asked him about the IRS deal. You're saying no corruption? None.
No, there were some boneheaded decisions out of a local office.
Mass corruption.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption.
Okay. Talking Points believes there is now enough evidence of corruption in the Justice Department that an independent prosecutor should be appointed. We all know Mr. Obama is not going to do that, but he should. We need honest government. And that's the memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us from Nashville, Tennessee, Jay Sekulow, who represents some of the groups targeted by the IRS. And here in Washington, Chris Fideli from Judicial Watch. Mr. Fideli, begin with you. From the beginning, I supported Director Comey. I thought he would do an honest investigation of the email fiasco. Now, I do not believe the investigation was honest for a number of reasons. You have been trying through your organization, Judicial Watch, to pry the information out of the government, correct?
Right. Yeah.
How is that struggle going?
The struggle continues. It's slow, grinding those FOIA lawsuits out in federal court. The courts have moved pretty fast when you consider when we found out about these lawsuits and what's happened since then. 2 federal judges have looked at this out of the many lawsuits we filed and say, yeah, it looks like Secretary Clinton was evading FOIA here, therefore we're going to allow you to take discovery. That's a pretty big thing. Rarely happens. There are 2 different federal judges. We're talking one Republican and one Democrat. Both have said the same thing. Looks that way. So yeah, we're moving along. We keep going.
Okay, now the folks don't want to be really bogged down in minutia.
Sure.
What is the end game for Judicial Watch? What do you think really happened?
We think, without question, Secretary Clinton purposely evaded the Freedom of Information Act with this server. It was designed for privacy, to keep things private, and some of those things were federal government records that belong to the people. So you got an intentional evasion of FOIA. Will there be consequences? Absolutely. There will be consequences in federal courts. There will be penalties.
So you believe, if elected president, that Hillary Clinton's going to have to deal with this down the road?
Whether her or her attorneys, this is going to keep going. Yeah, this is not going to stop.
Now, Mr. Sekulow, you're still involved with the IRS thing, and did I misstate anything? Lois Lerner just walked away. Nothing happened to her, right?
Well, she did walk away, but Bill, we filed a lawsuit in this case, and we just got an opinion from the U.S. Court of Appeals from the District of Columbia, which is right under the Supreme Court of the United States, and a unanimous opinion. And the court held that not only will our lawsuit proceed, that ongoing violations violate both statutory and constitutional law here. So this idea, when the president said to you not a smidgen of corruption, it was what do you call it, a boneheaded move in a local office. We have the actual emails where this was directed from Washington, D.C., signed by Lois Lerner. And also copies, by the way, to the chief counsel's office of the IRS. So this goes much higher than Lois Lerner, and the president was incorrect when he told you that.
I want to ask you the same question I asked Chris.
Yeah.
Do you think Lois Lerner is going to be in cuffs? Do you think they're going to have to arrest her down the road? Is that what you've got?
I don't think they'll do that. We are filing a civil suit, so we don't have the authority. Only the government can bring it.
So this is a civil suit.
What we're doing is making the government do its job under the Internal Revenue Code, which is to review these applications and approve them or not. Bill, we've got one client that is now waiting 7 years. And I've got another case involved in this lawsuit. I'm holding the opinion in my hand here where we won this, where the IRS, as early as yesterday, said they had not received a file when I've got the receipt from Federal Express being delivered to the IRS.
I don't think anybody's going to dispute.
So this,
but again, we want to cut to the chase because we've only right. Mr. Fideli, do you believe that ultimately Hillary Clinton is going to be found guilty of some kind of crime?
Crime, no. I do not believe that's going to happen. I think civil liability, we have a very...
Well, what does that mean, civil liability?
Civil liability means fines, short of jail. It means fines, it means...
Fines?
Yeah. Whether it's...
So you believe that the woman's going to have to pay a fine?
I think it would probably be paid through the State Department, the agency she headed.
Do you believe that Comey is corrupt?
I think he's a political animal.
Okay, so politics there. Yeah. Do you believe Holder is corrupt?
Yeah, I'd say that the corruption existed at his agency and he's responsible for it. So yeah.
Loretta Lynch.
There's not a worse decision I've ever seen. Well, I don't want to say the worst, but meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac about the horrible.
All right, Jay. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Do you believe Director Comey is corrupt?
I believe Director Comey is negligent, malfeasance. Corrupt is a tough standard, but Bill, I believe he needs to go. He's embarrassed the agency. He's embarrassed the Department of Justice. And it's
Eric Holder was corrupt.
I believe Eric Holder never meant a word he said, and he was the one who said it may well be criminal what the IRS did, and then he produced what was basically a faux investigation, so he did not live up to his constitutional obligation.
And what about Loretta Lynch?
Inexcusable that she met with the President of the United States, whose wife was going to be interviewed by her agency on the Saturday, goes on the private airplane, and 2 days later, the case is not brought. All right. And that part of these agreements did not allow evidence to be reviewed. That's absurd, Bill.
You both would not object to an independent prosecutor, which is what should happen here in both cases,
correct.
Right?
I think you're right.
No objection.
Okay. Yep. All right, gentlemen, thank you. 1 foot no, Mr. Sekulow has a book out called Unholy Alliance about the Iran situation. Next on the rundown, another police officer shot dead, this time in Los Angeles, even as Trump and Clinton battle it out over law and order. We'll bring you up to date. Then later, Bernie Goldberg on the upcoming debate moderators. Can they possibly be fair to Donald Trump? Those reports up ahead as we continue from Washington.